Do you find your initial fly casting pickup looking something like this, where you can make accurate, delicate presentations to fish in all situations? Or do you find your cast is more like this, where you're having to rip the line off the water, make your arm tired, and scare the fish away? If you want to become a better fly casting angler and have a chance to catch fish just like these, stick around. In this video, I'm going to show you how to properly pick that fly line up off the water to make you a better angler. Today I'm going to be talking about lifting floating fly lines off the surface. And the longer the piece of line we're dealing with, the more and more important this becomes. For very short lengths of line, it's really not going to make a difference how fast we lift this up. If I had 20 feet of line or under, I can start with the tip right here and I can pick it up. I'm just pulling the leader off out of the water. We're talking about making a little bit longer casts, say 30 feet plus, and the plus starts to become super important how we pick this up. Whether we are making a short cast or a long cast, we always want to think about lifting this line off the water first, putting it into our imaginary straight line track in the sky. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, you can check out some of my other videos about the importance of the straight line. We're going to lift our rod up into this track, then travel back and forth across that track. That initial lift becomes very important, because if we don't get all this fly line, not the leader and the fly, if we don't get all the fly line off the water, you can see all the spray it rips up. Makes a ton of noise. Now every fish around heard that, and if they didn't run away, they're certainly aware something is going on that's not natural. And the smoother and calmer the water, the more important this becomes on the fishing side of it. But whether it's choppy or smooth, it's always going to have the same kind of impact on your cast. If I go super fast from the beginning, it's going to put a ton of bend in my rod right away. My rod gets bent way more than it needs to be. And when that line leaves the surface, I've lost that resistance. I no longer have the water pulling back against that line. And then my rod can start to straighten up in the middle of my stroke. And then I can't control, it's very hard for me to control a progressive bend. So on our cast, we want to start off with no bend. We make more bend, more bend, more bend. We get a ton of bend, we stop. The rod will straighten. That's what keeps us along that straight line path. If we're not controlling that bend, if we're over bending it at the beginning, like such, you can see on my back cast, while it went up, I had no loop. There is no candy cane J-shape loop to that whatsoever. In addition, it makes my arm tired, because I have to really do a lot of pulling over and over and over to get that line off the water. So none of those three things are going to be good for my fishing day. Instead, it'll be much more effective if you imagine that your straight line track starts out here in front of you, well in front of your head, and your goal is to get that fly line off the water with your tip as far forward as possible. When I'm picking this line up, I am picking up my tip this way to get it into the end of my track. So I pick up, 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 up. Now it's off the water. I got that line off the water with my tip up here. Now I have a full stroke to go back and forth. We don't want to have a half a stroke on our first cast from the time we get the line off the water. And what I mean is this: if I lift up, 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 now I got the line off the water. That's a huge difference from being here as there was out here. It's almost a complete half a stroke. If I make this cast up, 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 now I can make a nice back cast. If I make this lift up, 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 it makes it very tempting to do that in the back, because you've run out of room to make a long straight stroke, and it makes you want to put it down into the water or ground behind you. When it comes to sight fishing situations, this becomes extremely important. For example, how many times have you had to do this? You cast at a fish, you probably started with it in your hand, you cast at a fish, that one didn't land quite where it needed to be. You need to immediately pick it up, put it over, maybe move it over a foot. that one didn't quite work. I need to pick it up, move it over, and I'm right next to that fish. I don't want to scare him. If you put it next to that fish and your first stroke is that, not only did you just scare him off, now your back cast looks bad. But even if I didn't scare that fish, now I have to do this and take a couple more strokes to get it back down where I needed. If I'm gonna lay that fly right back down where it came from, like this, come up, pick it up, lay it back down, you see that fly was headed down towards the target and unrolled right above the water, I can move it very small increments. If my first pickup is this, now I go down, look at this loop. I'm gonna repeat it, which I wouldn't need to, but you can see this loop here is not going to lay. I couldn't one up and lay that down where the fish was. It landed absolutely nowhere near where I wanted it to. So by making a downward back cast, which you're forced into because you picked it up to here and then you had to go down, oh, that one didn't quite work. Oh, that one didn't quite work. I've seen it happen hundreds of times on fishing charters, that even people who can eventually cast good loops, because of the manner in which they're picking it up, which is this, makes them go down, and then they have no technique for a one up, one down, which is going to be very, very important if we're going to be making micro adjustments to fish that we can see, or micro adjustments to spots we can see. Maybe we were casting at a rock, at a tree, at a little cove in the shore, whatever. If it didn't land there, I put it over there, and I needed to pick it up and move it over a little bit quickly, because as we're waving this rod back and forth at relatively close distances, those fish can see us waving that rod around. If you're on a boat, you can be rocking the boat. The clock is ticking. We got to get it there as fast as we can, and we don't have time for 4 or 5 false casts in most situations. Another important factor to consider as I'm picking this up is I am rotating my hand over. If I do not rotate my hand over, when I make this pickup, it makes me get to here, and then I really can't move any farther. Here, and I can't move any farther. If I roll that hand over, I can reach back a lot farther, but I want to roll that over not during my stroke. I don't want to be ever twisting my hand back and forth when I'm in my straight line track. I'm going to make that turnover before I get into that strike right here. That initial pickup, I'm coming up, up, up. Fingernails come up, 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 line off the water. Now I can flip it up in the back, up, 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 line off the water, over, over, down. I'm using the end of the colored fly line, not leader, not fly. You could use your fly and your leader. I used the end of the fly line itself. My goal is to get that line off the water with my tip in front of me so that I can make an entire long stroke across that track, and I'm not going to increase my speed until I get that line off. Line off the water. Now, if you come up too slow, this is what's going to happen. I'm pulling the end of this fly line in toward me, and I can never ever, it's still not off the water. So there is a fine line between doing it too slow. So now I'm not going to go ridiculously slow, but I'm going to go slow. I didn't get the line off the water till I was here because I was going so slow. I can only lift up so far this way, and then I have to start coming back over my head. But if I lift it up just fast enough, now, there's where I had that off the water. Now, you may have heard me say before, and I'll probably say many times again in the future, that we don't want to be this caster with our hand up here over our head. I see some videos online of people teaching new people, and they got their hand up here over our head. All that's going to do is make our shoulder tired and limit your range of motion. But on that initial pickup, I'm going to lift up so I can get the line off the water. My hand will come up and then immediately comes right back down into the comfort spot. So it's almost a 2-part up, 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 up. Now it comes down. Once I get it up there, I can immediately pull it back down. I don't want to lift it up and then stay up here the rest of the cast. This looks really awkward. It doesn't look like I'm smooth casting. The loops don't look good, and it's just not going to be pleasant. We want fly casting to be efficient and fun to do. So I'm going to pick it up, 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 up. Now my hand is back down. It goes up in the back, down in the front lands exactly where I want. So how you're picking that line up off the water is going to be crucial for you to make consistent, beautiful back casts and be able to move that fly around and get it to fish without them hearing you ripping that line off the water. If you enjoyed this video and you want to find out more ways to improve your fly cast, I have multiple fly casting playlists you can check out. Right here I have the most common fly casting errors that I encounter all in one playlist. And if you're trying to improve your cast, you're sure to be able to find something to help